Hello, welcome to Real Magic Review. I timed it just right, look at that, with the delay and everything. I think we are right on time. So welcome everyone. Hi Stephen, good morning, over in the US of A over there. Stuart, how you doing? Gary, good afternoon. And it's lovely to see you all. And sorry about Monday. Mondays aren't going to happen at the moment. I've got to be realistic and I've got to be a big boy. And I've got to realise that I can't do everything in the world and still not lose it. So there you go. It's all going to change. It's not really going to change that much. I'll probably be doing a few less reviews, one a week probably, and one live session a week. That's the plan, just so I can work on all the important stuff. Like, and not that this isn't important, but the other important stuff. Like Card Magic course, because I've realised I'm starting to build some stuff for that again, and it's really exciting. So check out cardmagiccourse.com. That's my online card magic course. Have a look at it. Go on, why don't you? Do that afterwards, and like and subscribe and do all that stuff. You know the drill. It makes a difference, etc., etc. So I'm going to go straight into it. Do ask questions about this. So many people ask me about this, and I'd like to. I think it's John Green. I went back and looked up way back when I did a giveaway. I said part of the giveaway with you had to ask any questions, what you'd like me to talk about on the channel. And I've gone back there. I said I would, and I have, even though it's a bit late, to do more of these videos about stuff that I think would help people out. So, and this is a big one, I think, for a number of reasons. It's always there. We all get quite nervous about performing. Some people may say they don't at all, but they might be sociopaths. I'm only joking. And sometimes it's better than others. But now coming out of lockdown, you know, the idea of performing is a little bit daunting for some of us. The idea of going to a pub. I went out the other day and I felt a little tiny bit of anxiety walking down the road to the pub. That's what I did. So we're not immune to it. But this is stuff that I've really felt genuinely that has helped me. I'm going to save the best one to the end, all right? Don't be let down if you don't like it. But and I'm still working on this. I still get nervous. I performed a trick today next door that I was super nervous about. I didn't feel nervous when I went into it, but as I was doing it, I really wanted it to happen. So even, you know, with the people in the office next door, it's just always there. So you're not on your own if you feel this. But it doesn't have to ruin everything, and it shouldn't stop you doing what you want to do. So, first one, and then we'll go to questions. It's not avoiding working with nerves, is preparation and rehearsal. Now bear with me, I know everybody says this, but some people still don't quite realise how to prepare. And there's part of preparation for performing magic that I'm horrible at. I just hate doing it, and I've been practicing a routine this week. And I do like a 40 minutes down this one routine, but I'm not just practicing the moves, I'm talking through it as if there's someone next to me. And it's just like pulling teeth. I don't know what it is about it. There's nothing wrong with it, is there? I'm not hurting myself, nobody's getting hurt, nobody dies. But and then I get into a bit of a rhythm with it, but it always feels really eggy, and it kind of doesn't feel like it's doing much good either. I'm not seeing the improvement, it's not making me remember it anymore. But what I've learned is that when I rehearse and not practice, rehearse as in talk through the lines, even if they're not the exact lines I'm going to say, the exact script, when I come to perform it, it all flows a little bit better. And what happens is that when you get into that habit, it's like doing presentations as well. By the way, everybody practices presentations. Not very many people actually rehearse them as if they're doing it. And what happens is the learning kind of goes in without you knowing it. And when after you've done that 4 or 5 or 6 times, you start trusting that process and go, well, if I rehearse it, it's kind of going to be all right. So it puts all this psychological stuff, you know, into your head, which I suppose it's all psychological stuff that goes into your head, but you know what I mean. But it gives you this kind of confidence, and confidence comes from trusting your process, to trusting that when you step out there and perform, you're going to be all right, even if you don't feel like you're going to be all right. It's this kind of big unknown, and you always step out and go, oh, this is going to be really weird. Whenever I perform, I always step out, and the first thing I think is, what am I going to say? Because I'm not a script person. But because of that trust and confidence, and because I have done a rehearsal, there's a comfort in doing what I'm doing. So I would say, practice until you know you can do those moves without thinking about them. You don't have to think about it. They're going to kind of look after themselves. We've all heard this hundreds of times. We know that. But then rehearse and understand that rehearsal, you may never get to a point where you can just say the words and not think about it. I did my street show for 20 odd years, and I still, if you said, what did you say, talk me through it, I wouldn't be able to give you all the lines I said in it. They came in that moment, and that's real magic. It's a really weird thing. When it just sort of arises, you learn that habit of where your lines come in. It's a really natural thing, and you get into flow with it. And we're going to come back to that at the end. And I've written a thing here: over prepare, but don't overcomplicate, or / over script. And that takes us into the next one, which is make it easy on yourself. So number one is preparation and rehearsal, but think of what that means. Number two is make it easy on yourself. When I haven't done many competitions, but I did the Magic Circle competition forever ago. And right up to the day, I wasn't going to do the cups and balls, because I knew that, like the back of my hand. I thought, no, I'm going to do the cone and ball. That's what I was going to do. I was going to do Vernon's cone and ball, which, to do well, by the way, is incredibly difficult. It's really difficult to do well. To make it look like that ball isn't rolling under the cone, it's really hard. And I was doing it with a big snooker ball. And just before I went on, I went, what am I doing? I've got to do the cups and balls. I'm too nervous. If I do that, and thankfully I did, because even my cups and balls was all over the place. And I was really comfortable with that. So if I'd have gone out there, I'd have humiliated myself. So basically, and I get this a lot, people say they're doing their Magic Circle exam. They say, I've got a gig, I'm going to try this new thing. Always try new things, but make sure you're starting with something that isn't technically difficult, or you haven't got to remember 50 things at once, because something does happen to your brain when you get out there. And until you get really comfortable with it, it's harder for you to kind of, easy mathematics, when you're under pressure, it can just go. So what I would say, underscript it. Just say what you need to say, and don't get in a position where you've got to have to remember reams and reams of dialogue. And then when you're comfortable, start adding that dialogue in, when you know you can do the trick, when you trust the trick, when you feel like it's going to work. And the trick that I tried earlier, which was the any card at any number from Napier, which is incredible, which I'm going to be reviewing thing. I was so nervous, but because I knew I had to do some very, very, very simple stuff that even for me under pressure has got some worry attached to it. So I kept it super easy. If you're going to remember stuff, make that all you remember, and then add to it and make it as perfect as you can over time. Number 3, this is a big one. I talk about this a lot. Be aware that when you first perform a trick, and by perform, by the way, I'm not on about, it doesn't have to be a paid gig or in a professional, I'm on about to your spouse, to your kids, to anyone. When you show a friend or anybody a trick, that is part of the learning process of what that routine or trick will become. So, and you would have heard me say about stand-up comedy, and street performing in Covent Garden. We used to audition, they used to audition for being a street performer in Covent Garden every month, like 20 people, sometimes less, but a lot of people. So you add that up to a year of people audition. I would say when I was there over 11 years or whatever, I saw a handful of people that actually stuck it out, did it and became performers. Because what happened is people do the audition, go, oh great, they come and do a show, die, as would be most people that aren't used to working the street, and then go, oh, it's not for me. And it was so sad, because part of that process was, it took me years to get to a point where my street show was consistent. And I mean years, 5 years, I think. So, and then you get there. So when you perform that trick, just see that as part of it. It's the next stage of learning. And then you sort of take the heat off yourself, because you don't beat yourself up if it doesn't go great. The trick I did earlier was rubbish. I mean, got a great reaction, because it's a wonderful trick. It could fall back on the magic. But actually, if you'd have seen me, you'd have been like, no script, just like take that, put that in there you go, that'll do. And that was it. So it's part of the learning process. You're not going to, very rarely, unless you're really, really used to doing it, you're not going to get a new routine, go out, nail it, and it's not going to improve. And this is important, because when I say things like be aware that it's part of the process, and I mean sit down and consciously think about it, make a thing of going, actually, because when you say just think about something, people think about it for a split second and then move on. I mean, sit down and really think about it. Really put yourself in that position of understanding, thinking what it's going to be like in 6 months when I do this trick, in a year when I do this trick, and it's going to be a totally different thing. So a bit like when you do a show, when people like Dynamo, Darren Brown, when they do the first night of their tour, that show is going to be a very different show 3 months into that tour. So even when people are buying tickets and paying a lot of money for tickets, it's still a learning process. They're still doing notes every night. So I understand that, and that really inspires me. Experiment with your thing, what you need to do before performance. And again, it doesn't have to be a show. We all have our rituals. We all have our things to do that calm us down or put us in a decent space. And it will be different from other people. And that's why all of these things, experiment with them, do your version of them, because they won't, as I say them, some of them won't work for you, but they might, if you keep doing them, you'll sort of adapt. Before I do these live shows for YouTube for now, I have a routine where I come in, I sit down, I kind of semi-meditate, I maybe read a bit, I just take my mind off stuff, and I read through my notes, and that's it. But I have to do that. If someone's here and I'm on the phone, I can't bear that. I need to be on my own. If I'm doing a show, I need to be on my own. A close-up gig is a bit different because I'm kind of used to that now, and I'm doing stuff I've been doing for years. But if I'm doing a show, I'm on stage, I've got that real kind of, I know it's just me up there. I have to be left alone. And if you come and see my show, which a lot of you won't because you're a long way away, in September, I'm going to be I'm not going to see anybody before that show. I might go a quick hello, but I just can't. I need to focus my mind because I'm not very good company at that point. And be ruthless with people. Say, I'm sorry, I really can't do that now because I've just got to get in the right headspace. And if you are ever in a position where you are performing, if you're not a performer already, or you're preparing to show a trick to a friend and you need to go off for 5 minutes and just get your head together, that's completely fine as well. And people have got all manner of things. And say experiment, because try things that you think may be ridiculous because they may work for you. Mindfulness, meditation, all that stuff just totally works for me. But there's a thing called self-anchoring. And when I learned about it, because I'm very skeptical, right? I'm kind of very spiritual and very skeptical, which doesn't really work sometimes. But what happens with self-anchoring, and when I first learned it, I was like, didn't even try it. It's utterly ridiculous. That's not going to work. And then I went back to it later on when I kind of felt like I had to. I was experiencing quite a lot of stress. And with practice, and after about 30 or 40 times, it really started working for me, and I still do it now. And basically, give it a Google, but self-anchoring sounds like a very woo-woo process. And what you do, you put yourself in a very relaxed state. So not when you're performing, when you're kind of in a relaxed state a lot of the time, or just close your eyes, imagine you're somewhere really, really lovely, get yourself in a really peaceful space. And then what you do is you add a physical anchor. So for example, it may be something like mine is, I put my thumb like that, and I just squeeze my finger and thumb together. I have got one like that as well. So I squeeze my finger and thumb together when I'm in that space. And what happens is if you do that loads of times every day, every time you're feeling peaceful, close your eyes, what happens is you create a connection, an anchor. So after a while, when you do that, it will kind of put you in, or it can put you in a really relaxed space. Now, if you think about it, even if it's complete placebo, even if it's just reminding you to stop and breathe, it doesn't matter, okay? And I don't know what the science is. I mean, the science makes sense if you see what I mean, if you think about it, because what you're doing, if you see a piece, some advertising, they use the same sort of thing, okay? So you see a picture, it makes you feel a certain way, and that's all that's happening is you're feeling something, you're doing something that's making you feel a certain way. And I promise you, a lot of you, if you do that every time you've got a spare moment, close your eyes, couple of minutes, relax, do something, and every time you do that, you create that connection, that neural connection. And now when I do it, it's nuts. It's kind of like I get this relaxation all sort of from my shoulders, and again, it might be complete placebo, but it doesn't matter. But just try loads of that kind of thing, and you never know what's going to work. Open your mind to it. Number 5 is trivialize it. And this is fascinating. There's a book called Bounce. Matthew Syed. This is great. And it's about numerous things. It's about the kind of talent myth and things like that. But he was talking, if I remember rightly, and it was a while ago I read it, to gold medal Olympians. And he was saying, how do you deal with the nerves, right? Let's say you're a diver, and I know some divers that are going to be doing the Olympics probably, and it just fascinates me. You've got 3 shots or whatever it is, It's not like you can have 20 goes at it, and you've got to dive off that board, and it's got to be perfect. And how do you deal with that? And a lot of people saying, well, you do the work up to that point, and then you basically just go, okay, well, I've done the work. I'm just going to have a nice time now. And it's not like you don't care. It's a weird paradox of kind of knowing that it's the most important thing in the world, so respecting that, but also not getting to that point where you're overthinking everything and even the things you wouldn't usually think about. And I think this has got a lot to do with shaky hands, by the way. The shaky hands thing that a lot of us, and me included, do, and we try a new trick and we realize our hands are shaking. We're like, what's this? And I think that's because we start thinking too much about things that we wouldn't usually think about. So in the practice room, we could be, doing something that, I do a revolution cut sometimes when I'm chatting, but if someone said to me, right, now you got to do it and I'll give you $5,000 if you do it perfectly, my natural thing would be to start thinking about what my fingers were doing, and then it just all goes to pot. So it's trivializing it and understanding that it's not the end of the world. I've done the work, I'm just going to have a nice time, and I'm not going to be there going, this has got to be amazing. You know, you can do all that leading up to it, but actually in the moment, just beforehand, just relax, have a nice time, and almost just let it unfold. And like I said, it's kind of the which I'm working a lot on now. It's just sort of that paradox is respect it, know it's brilliant, and know it's a really important thing, but also it doesn't matter, because it doesn't really matter. Don't focus on what could go wrong. This is a classic one, and this is coming on to the last one in a minute, which I think is the most important one for lots and lots of things. We've all been there, you know, you just walking on stage, or you're just about to show a trick, and the first thing you think, what if I get it wrong? You know, and think about it, especially if it's one of those tricks like any card at any number, where I'm like, right, you've said a number, we've gone through that whole thing, I'm going to turn the card over. You know that at that point, if it's not the card, you're going to feel horrible, unless you trivialize it and you go, it doesn't really matter. But more times than not, that's going to be very, very difficult. So, if you concentrate on that thing, you're going to ruin the whole performance of it, and you're going to get more nervous. And I think it's a hard thing to do, and this takes training. All right, it's not something you can just sort of go, hey. And this is the danger with a lot of this stuff. People kind of want the quick fix. They go, oh, I want to think about something, and it's going to complete, or self-anchoring. Do that once, and I'm not going to be nervous at all. It doesn't work like that. It's like marginal gains. It makes things easier. And if you just train yourself to, every time you feel your mind go into that place of what could go wrong, you just bring it back. You bring it back, and and after a while, you'll find that bringing it back a lot easier. You'll kind of be able to block out certain thoughts. You'll kind of feel them coming. And the number 7 is the one that I think is, I mean, these all kind of link together anyway, but this is the one that if you can nail this, and people have been trying to do it for thousands of years, right back to the birth of Buddhism, and I'm not going to lecture about Buddhism, but it's try and train yourself to stay in the moment. And I know we all say it a lot, it's almost like a cliche, you've got to stay in the moment, but we don't really understand what that means a lot of the time, and actually how very, very difficult it is. And when you start looking into this in depth, you actually start understanding the power of it. And what it is the minute, if you all worry and suffering and all that kind of stuff is about worrying about the future or regretting the past. And if we can get to a point where those things aren't existing for us in that moment, then we don't really get nervous or worried, because we can't, because we're just doing what we're doing. And that's what flow is. That's why when you see performers, and when you're in that thing when it's all going well, and it not just with performing, but with writing, with sports, with anything you're doing, you know, when you're not thinking, oh, I've got to, you know, hit the tennis ball with this hand really hard and I'm going to hit it. It just seems to happen by magic. That is being completely in the moment. That is flow. And it takes training to do that sometimes. And you can feel sometimes when the worry comes in, like what I was saying earlier about worrying, but it's also regret. You know, that didn't go well. I'm not going to try that again. So I'm not going to keep working on that. And I think if you can train yourself to, every time that happens, just bring it back to the moment and not really even think about what you're doing, but just be with what you're doing. That is the key to all of it, I think. And it's something I've been working on for years. It's getting easier. And funnily enough, the nerves, really, the shaky hand stuff earlier on when I did my trick came afterwards. When I was doing it, it was all right, because again, I'm doing a lot of work on it. And there are different ways of working on that, of course. There's just doing it, just sort of saying, right, I'm going to just breathe and concentrate on the breathing, or just concentrate on what I can see in front of me and not think and cut off the thoughts, like I said before. And there's things like meditation that really works. And if you're skeptical about meditation, which I am still really about a lot of it, even if you treat it as a kind of an exercise of going, right, basically when you sit down and meditate, what happens is you start trying to clear your mind and all the thoughts pop up. And all you're doing is then whenever a thought pops up, you're just saying, okay, fair enough, you're there, but I'm going to come back to this now. And over time, it just becomes easier to come back to the breath or whatever it is. So again, when you're doing a magic trick, the minute you start thinking about the disaster that could happen, you just bring it back. And what happens is beforehand, when you're feeling nervous, you can start doing that as well, and it starts making that lead up to a performance or a trick a lot easier. So staying in the moment is something, again, like all of this stuff, that takes time, that is about marginal gains, it's about practice. All of these things, even when I say think in a certain way, it's just like a bottom deal or a second deal. You're not going to do it once and go, oh, I can't do it. You've got to keep doing it, and over time you'll realize that you're getting a little bit better. So there are my 7 tips for dealing with nerves. We're going to see if there's a couple of questions. If you've got anything now, speak now or forever hold your peace, because I'll say bye in a minute, and I've got about a 15-second delay between me and you. So get your questions in if you've got them. But no worries, no worries if you haven't, of course. Lovely channel. Thank you so much, JWD3003. Matthew, how you doing? I'm good, thank you. Jack, even if you have time to rehearse 30 minutes a day, that's still over 15 hours a month. That is a great point, a brilliant point. I'm doing an experiment at the moment, and it's exhausting, but I'm learning loads of different things at the moment. So I'm going back to basics with juggling. I'm going back to basics with guitar. I'm going back to basics with piano. And I'm doing like 20 minutes of each thing most nights. And sometimes I'll do like an hour and a half one night and nothing the next night and break it up a little bit. That's fine. But you're absolutely right. It sometimes feels, you think I've only done 20 minutes, so I haven't got better because you haven't felt that improvement. But sometimes you'll go back and you'll see the work that 20 minutes, even, when I was learning to juggle years ago when I was at circus school, they used to say 10 minutes a day is better than none a week and then a couple of hours. It's kind of you're creating neural pathways. And again, with all this stuff, do a little bit every day with self-anchoring, whatever it is, just do a little bit every day. And again, with the preparation, with the rehearsal, talk through it twice a day, and you'll be amazed at when you come and do the trick, it's just in there. It's a really cool thing, and it's kind of the real magic of what we do, I think. I learned a long time ago from Stephen, learned a long time ago to start every performance with something easy, and that I know absolutely. I remember watching Richard Osterlind on his L&L. He starts with a version of Bank Night, which is so easy, and it's and almost so easy you sort of go, well, I'm never going to get away with that because that's too. And it's, of course he gets away with it because the audience aren't seeing anything different. But yeah, keep it easy. And I have really come undone and unstuck with that before. I've come out and just gone, whoa, this is way too much cognitive load for me. I should have started something a lot easier. 10 minutes a day, yeah, absolutely. So 10 minutes a day is always better than nothing, absolutely. Great tips from David, he said, thank you. I mean, David said it's great tips. Yeah, thank you very much. Placebo is the best drug available, absolutely. And that's why, people get so caught up in the science behind stuff. Look, if it works for you, it works. That is all the science you need. It doesn't matter. And if whatever it is, if it's, sitting down and self-anchoring and kind of going in, and if it works for you, it works for you. That's it. That's all that matters. And people are so sniffy and judgmental about this stuff. Actually, until they get a bit older usually, and they realise that, I need a bit of that, so I'll give it a go. And actually, open-mindedness is the experimentation. And understand one thing with nerves. You are not on your own. We all feel it. It's kind of what makes this job a job, really. If it wasn't, then everybody would do it. If everybody could just go out and do it. And what we're doing as magicians, think about this, and I have talked about this before, it's such a vulnerable place to be. You walk out in front of someone and you're basically, the minute you get those cards out, even though you're not explicitly saying it, they are reading the communication from you of, I'm just about to show you something amazing, or I'm just about to show you something that will blow your mind, or that's what they're thinking. So that's the expectation. And that is a lot to live up to, but it's all a complete illusion. It isn't anything to live up to, because if it goes wrong, nobody dies. And again, it's that thing of trivializing it. Understand it's fun. I've got tricks wrong before. People don't judge you, and if they do, you know what? You don't really need those people in your life. Even if you're getting paid for it, it's just part of the process. So I really hope that was helpful. If you've got anything else you would like me to talk about on these sessions, I'm going to be here every Thursday. I've really had to reassess what I'm doing at the moment because I found myself getting very, very overwhelmed with sort of reviews and stuff. So and it's interesting. I was banging through this book to review earlier, and I just went, you know what? I need to respect this stuff that I'm reviewing and not just bang through it and say a few things about it, and I want to be able to do better reviews and good reviews that are based on me trying the stuff out. And I know I do that anyway. But I think less is more sometimes. So you'll see a review from me. I was going to record it today, but I wanted to read through some bits of the book coming up soon. But thank you so much, always for your support. It really is appreciated. So saying that, please like and subscribe. I know most of you have. If you think this will be of use to anyone and you mention it in the forums or anything like that, it would be really, really lovely for me, because I'm going straight to a live session in a minute, and hard to find time to do all the sharing stuff sometimes, and it's lovely if other people do it. So I really would love that. Napier looks amazing, Matthew said. It is really good, man. It's just a lovely book, and I know that's a bit of a spoiler for my review, but I probably wouldn't bother reviewing it if it wasn't, unless it was really bad, and then that would be quite fun. But there you go. So thank you very much. Visit cardmagiccourse.com if you want a free spread cull download course of me teaching you it in depth. cardmagiccourse.com/cull, C-U-L-L, and you'll get that. And thank you so much. Have a great one, everybody. Take care and stay safe. Bye-bye.